Senator, you were talking about the effect on legislation. We certainly can't legislate a lot of these issues, but one of the suggestions we've seen from one of your colleagues, Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa, is that we should put the immigration reform effort on hold until we know a lot more.
I agree with Senator Grassley.
Why?
You usually end up with bad policy if you do it in an emotional way or an emotional reaction. We saw some things post 9/11 that were enacted that if we had had a little more rational time to think this through, perhaps we wouldn't have had some of the pushback on it. But more importantly, immigration is an issue that has dramatic economic effect on Americans. It has national security implications. I think stepping back just a little bit and putting it on hold, for instance, we have a bigger issue than immigration in front of us, and that's our debt deficit, and it's got to get solved, and it's got to get solved. I'm not saying taking it out. We have a broken system. It needs to be reformed, but I'm afraid we'll rush to some judgments relative to immigration and how it's processed. So let's do it in a rational way rather than an emotional way.
George, with respect, I think that's as bad an idea as calling this an enemy combatant. We have a 100% success rate of prosecuting terrorists in the United States. 100%. And I think that's a bad idea on the part of Senator McCain in the lead. I think the idea of delaying immigration reform, if you ask anybody involved with immigration, including the immigrants themselves, this is a horrible idea to take this isolated, horrible, violent, evil incident and make it stand for a larger politics and put immigration reform, put the brakes on it.
Where do you stand on that, Congressman?
Well, it is not the right thing to do. We're a nation of immigrants. I trust our government. We vet people up and down. We review policies every day, but to put it on hold is not in the best interest of this country.
I agree with the Congressman. One of the things the immigration reform bill will deal with is the 11 or 12 million people who are in this country but are still living in the shadows. One of the lessons of this incident, we need to integrate all Americans into this society. We want to mainstream them. Rather than delaying the bill, I actually think we should move it even faster. We've thought about this for years, economically, but also in terms of our national security. This bill will help make America safer because more Americans will come into the mainstream, will no longer be forced to live in some twilight shadowed area. That's one of the lessons we ought to take from this. Alienated young people, not part of the mainstream fully, dangerous thing.
Well, I think I'm the last person on the opposite side of all this, but I'm simply saying just push it back a month or two, let the emotions settle down, let us do it in a rational way and make good judgments, not based on the urgency of the moment. Congress has a way of just rushing to judgments without thinking it through carefully. We're talking months here or a few weeks, not years.